Let's bring in Chris Clem now, former Border Patrol chief for the Yuma, Arizona sector. He started his career in El Paso. Thank you very much for joining us. First, weigh in, please, as we continue to see these live pictures of very clearly migrants continuing to overwhelm our southern border, both in Texas and Arizona, sir.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. Thank you for continuing this coverage. This is like a horror version of Groundhog Day, the movie. This has been going on for the last several years in this administration. I was just in Lukeville last week, witnessed it firsthand, 1,000 people on the ground, mainly adult males, some family groups there. But you're seeing this just like in Griff's report from Eagle Pass, all the way to Lukeville, Arizona. This has been going on day in and day out for the last several years. And, I'm glad that there are governors and some independent mayors and people stand up saying enough is enough. We have got to send a clear message to Washington that, you know what? You messed up. The policy that you put in place are not working, and Americans and the migrants are paying the price.
Well, outnumbered and out-resourced, this is the Arizona Governor Katie Hobbs calling on federal reimbursement. Listen.
Arizona can't do this alone, nor should we have to. We're asking the federal government to reimburse us for the costs to Arizonans. For far too long, Arizona has borne the brunt of federal inaction on our southern border, and I'm tired of it.
This is bipartisan outrage over this happening. Does that give you some sort of hope that they'll be able to push the White House on this issue?
Well, that's what we have to bank on, is that some of the members of the president's own party are very frustrated. I'm glad that she went down there to the border. She's been dealing with this and been aware of this since she took office. That reimbursement is really to pay the state and government and local agencies that have been, dealing with the releases and the shelters. And Arizona taxpayers like myself shouldn't have to bear the brunt of a federal problem. And, what's so amazing about this is if a state was to take action to try to take, decisive enforcement actions, this same administration would come after them. And that's where this hypocrisy coming out of Washington, D.C. when it comes down to this border is beyond, frustrating. And, again, this was fixed. We were at the best place and the most secure border that I had been working with at that point, 25 years. And it all got changed. I think nothing more than political spite and just frustration with the previous administration. We were getting there, and they really wasted some opportunities here.
And Chris, I keep highlighting these live images because, we're showing them. This is our Fox flight team. Otherwise, you wouldn't be seeing these images. This is constant. This flow is constant. We were this time yesterday covering the exact same story and a steady flow of migrants coming over, having to be processed by these Border Patrol agents. You mentioned frustration. There's frustration all over the country. You just heard from the governor of Arizona, a Democrat. Here's the New York City Mayor Adams expressing frustration about the border. There was this meeting in D.C. just last week. Here's the mayor.
Did not see the level of urgency. I'm just not seeing the White House and their colleagues up there understanding that we need a decompression strategy. Cities should not be carrying the burden of a national crisis. And when I left D.C., I did not walk out and say that, the cavalry is coming.
All right, so he's acknowledging this is a national crisis. He's dealing with this right here in New York City. He said, I'm just not seeing the White House and their colleagues up there understanding that we need a strategy. Here's the border crisis by the numbers, Chris. This is what we're looking at. 5,000 migrants released every day into the country. We had a record 12,000 migrants that were encountered. This was just last week. That is the highest number ever. Do you see any signs of this abating?
Well, no. And, let me just say something about Mayor Adams. He sent his team down the border last year. I met with his team and we explained that this is what was happening. This is what was coming to a city near them. And, I'm glad they're finally getting very frustrated and vocal. But look, this is what those numbers that you're showing is something that we lived for the last few years, what I lived as chief and what they're living right now. I don't see any abatement. And what's happening is, what the administration is putting forth as far as their budget is to, expedite and efficiently process these migrants once they're in our custody to get them released. That is again a pull factor that other guests and other people have talked about. If there is not a consequence, if there's no reason to stop them, they're going to keep coming. And if we're just going to put technology to efficiently process them, that's a continuous pull factor. We've got to shut it down. We need to get the border secure. We need to get things in place. And then at that point, can we address what that lawful pathway should be?
Okay, Chris Klum, thank you very much for joining us as we continue to watch this at our southern border. We will see what happens next as there are bipartisan calls now to do something. Thank you, sir.